This episode is sponsored by Phrase Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They now offer unique pressed flowers in the shapes of buffaloes and other prints in different sizes and in handmade wooden frames. Be on the lookout for bills, sabers, and bandits colors coming soon.
You can get a hold of them at their website at phraseflowers.com. That's Frase flowers.com, or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color to your life at Phrase Flowers.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, May 23rd, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Episode 362. This is it's going to be a disorganized episode. We're previewing it, but we just previewed two games last week versus the same team. It's kind of going to be all over the place, kind of just talking about the first two games, talking about what adjustments they need to make to this one, who our possible finals MVP is, and possibly some questions at the end if we got some questions on, okay, what happens if they win and what happens if they lose. Just a little teaser because this is the first and last time we're really able to talk about it before we know the result on Saturday. Okay, if they do lose, what does this team look like going into the offseason? What are their plans? If this team wins, does that change any of their plans this offseason? So at the end of it, we'll kind of talk about that since we're going to this is probably going to be a quicker episode. It's kind of scattered all over the place. But before we dive into it, this might be we're always a little late on some of the trends that are going on online, Phil. My question to you is, and I'm sure that you've seen this question because it's been asked on multiple podcasts that I know you listen to, and I want to know your answer because I'm still up in the air on my answer. The trend has been going on for a while. We're like 3 or 4 weeks behind. One gorilla versus 100 humans. Who wins? Because I'm not going to say men because there are some women out there that could be lumped into the hundreds that I would have no problem sending them off to battle because they would beat the crap out of me. So one gorilla versus 100 humans. Who wins that battle?
Yeah, as discussed and multiple other things, there's just so many factors that go into it, the strategy of it all, as the first person goes in and gets, I would assume, demolished, what does that do for morale for the other 100? I feel like if it's very well organized and everybody is like 100% bought in, sorry, I think the humans could win. I do. But again, it has to be a strict plan and everybody has to stick to that strict plan. And I think there is a strategy to win. But if it's kind of all over and the people that are chosen are like completely random, it's just 100 humans from whatever, and there's no strategy, it's just simply, here's a random group of 100 humans versus one gorilla, I'm definitely choosing gorilla in that situation.
Yeah, I think there's plenty, like you said, there's plenty of scenarios, there's plenty of other things that people have talked about. If it's 100 random people, it's the gorilla winning every single time. There's no doubt. If it's 100 volunteers, then it comes down to, is it 100 versus one at the same time, or are you sending one in at a time? Because if you're sending one in at a time, it's the gorilla every time. If you're sending one at a time and the other 99 are forced to watch what happens, there's going to be 99 people that are entering that arena that are just trying to tire out the gorilla by running around in circles because you saw the first one have their arms ripped off and the gorilla beats them with it. I do think, though, that I do think that if it is 100 versus 1, that the gorilla will eventually lose. You're going to take losses. The human race is going to lose multiple people, many multiple people. I'm saying, I'm saying probably the first 20 to 30 people that are in that dog pile are the human sacrifices that are volunteering themselves. The other 60 to 70 people, I do think that eventually the gorilla will be tired because it is just one gorilla. There are 100 humans. I do think that it is possible, but I also think that it would be difficult. I think the advantage that the humans have is there's 100 of them and there's just one gorilla, so the gorilla will be tired. But the disadvantage of humans is there are 100 of them. There's only so much room on the gorilla's body that you can attack.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the 99th person in the back's not really going to be doing anything to the gorilla, while the gorilla's just causing havoc in the first.
It's probably
20
like
people.
10 at a time. You got to do like a wave of 10. Yeah. Anything more than that, I feel like you're not getting in there.
Yeah, it's like send the first 10, try to pin the gorilla down. Hopefully you're not in that first group of 10. Here's the biggest question. If you could pick one person that you have to bring with you, like they don't have an option, who are you bringing? Like, are you bringing somebody you don't like, or are you bringing somebody that's like, okay, I'm bringing The Rock because I can just hide behind him because he's a literal boulder?
Yeah, no, I definitely bring. I don't know who it is currently, but whoever the world's strongest man is. Because if I'm part of this and I'm going in, I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to go in there and.
Well, the other alternative is you're not coming out of there.
Well, right, but you said like, am I taking someone I don't like? Like, no,
Right.
I need someone who's going to help me get this victory. I'm not bringing a sacrifice. I mean,
Well,
unless,
it depends on if
they're
you
early.
think. If you think like, okay, I'm gonna lose regardless.
Yeah,
I might as well bring somebody
that's
I'm not
true.
a big fan
That's
of.
true.
You know what I mean,
I feel like that's not. It's not
That's
the
not
human
strategy,
spirit.
no.
You
I
know,
wouldn't
you gotta
do
have
that
hope
either.
that you're gonna somehow make it out. But yeah, world's strongest man coming with me.
I just bring like the mountain from Game of Thrones.
There you go.
feel
Yeah,
like
I think
that would
he's
be a good
been
one.
part of those competitions. So
I don't even need strength. I just need bulk.
huge, just
so I
mass.
can hide behind.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
eventually that guy's gonna probably perish, but I can
Right.
still hide behind his body.
For
And
a
then
long
when they're
time.
dragging the gorilla off, like, I'm still alive. And then they release the gorilla. You haven't finished off 100. Send him back. So, that's our answers.
Yeah, my other question, which I haven't thought about at all, but what if it wasn't a gorilla? Like, what's the animal that you think could beat 100 humans, or is there an animal you think could beat
got
100 humans?
Two off the top of my head.
Oh wow! All right, he's going in.
A rhino. I don't think you're stopping a rhino.
Rhino would be really tough.
And
I
then
mean,
a
they
hip-
literally have tough skin, so I don't even know what you're doing to attack it.
Yeah, and then a hippo. I think hippos kill.
Hippos, I heard, are just
Yeah, I heard they're
horrifying.
mean.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's just water or on land, but yeah, I think those two would do.
they're
I don't think you stand a chance.
their like jaw strength or something is like
I've seen them
like
eat
they're biting
watermelons.
through steel and stuff. I think it's insane. Like crunch through
uh,
bones like it's nothing.
Did you have one?
No, I mean grizzly came first to mind. Polar bear, but I feel like they're also just kind of slow and tired. I feel like they'd get
What about
tired.
a whale?
I don't know what you're doing to a whale either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those. I mean, lion. Obviously, like your main predators come to mind. I feel like there's something like very scientific and ridiculous, like a snake that can just poison you. Every single person that goes near it just get little snake bites and you're all dead.
Yeah, but I feel like one person just grabs the neck of that snake.
Well,
Unless
maybe
it's
not
like
the snake, but I'm saying like I feel like there's some kind of animal that's similar to that. That's like would be unbeatable in this kind of situation that we just don't even think of.
Yeah, I'm thinking a whale just because of mass size, and then hippo and rhinos.
Whale would be interesting. You went size for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been, if you're just tuning in, this is the Buffalo Sports Collective, and we
Yep.
will be talking about sports. But like I said, I warned ahead of time. This is going to kind of be all over the place. So let us know what animal you think you can defeat, and let us know which animals you definitely can't defeat. There's not very many I know I can defeat. Chimpanzee will rip my face off. I've seen them. They are crazy. Baboon, same thing. Maybe a squirrel. I might be able to take on a squirrel.
Yeah.
Maybe a deer without antlers. Might be able to take a deer out. I don't know. Even that one, their hoofs. I'm delicate.
Yeah, horses
let us
are
know.
scary.
Yeah, let us know what animal you can defeat and which ones you can't by letting us know on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article came out on Wednesday. Hopefully you read that. If you haven't, you still got time. Go read it now. You can also check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go, and we're going to break down the game right here. Kind of already gave you a preview of it on the last show. If you want to hear more about the players, either watch the two games that just transpired last weekend or listen to our show from last Thursday. Phil, we're not really going to go over all the players. We already know the names: the Keenan, Mans, Walter on the right hand side. I'm sorry, the left hand side. Even Anderson got a spot start in game one, which was surprising. Then the righties are Shanks, Church, Triolo, and Haley. I would expect Triolo back in because they won when Triolo was in the lineup. They did not win when Anderson was in the lineup, even though I would personally play Anderson, but that's just me. Phil, my question to you is, which Buffalo Bandit on the defensive end has to be the X factor for them to win game 3 and come out as a three-peat champion?
I don't think we've seen anybody really struggle, or at least particularly, like, there really haven't been too many defenders where you're like, that guy's
there's been
getting
moments,
picked on.
but not big time.
Right. So to me, I mean, it's definitely a cheap way to go, but it's kind of the unit again. Like, I really don't think, like, again, it's not a fair way to go.
I'm playing
I really
chicken
don't
if
think
you're not
there's any,
watching
like,
on YouTube.
one person to me that needs to be better than they've been this series. Like, I really don't think anyone's been bad. I know when Matisse came back, he was a little bit slower coming off that injury. You can tell they were picking on him and Dawson with their speed. But I think they're both still playing well. Matisse had big moments. Dawson had big moments, obviously, with his block shots and just loose balls being there. Like, I think everybody's been pulling their weight for the most part, but they haven't been pulling the same direction all that often. One player, if I must choose one, who got burned a few times last game was Belter. I think he was just out of position a few times, missed some loose balls. So even though throughout the playoffs, I think he's been really, really solid and a great player, I think in this last game particularly, there were 2 or 3 they could kind of point out him, and Vince yelled at him quite a bit on that last one that ended up being the game-winning goal. And you mentioned that Vince did apologize later, just kind of who Matt Vince is. But if I had to pick one person, at least from that very last game, I think Zach Belter could step up a little bit. And if he doesn't have some of the mistakes that he had in that game, maybe they end up winning. But you could say the same about the entire team at certain points.
Sorry, I was looking at my projection for later on in the show when we predict what the score was, so I want to make sure I got it right. I'm going less about which ones need to improve based on last performances and more who I think needs to be that
guy.
X factor in the game coming up here for them to walk out. I'm gonna go, and it's not underrated anymore, and he's been a talk about. I mean, we've talked about him multiple times, even in the early part of the season. We were talking about he could be a transition type player of the year candidate here. I'm going Nick Weiss, and I'm going less about his defensive abilities, and especially on the penalty kill, nothing like that. I think he needs to score in at least one in the transition game if Buffalo is going to win. Buffalo needs to get that transition game going because their offense in this series has struggled. And by struggled, I mean they still scored 22 goals. They're averaging 11 goals. Based on how the defense in Matt Vince is playing, that should be enough to win. I think getting to 10, 11 goals should be the goal. If you do that, I think you walk out victorious. But I think to give more help with the offense that, Josh Byrne hasn't been putting the ball in the back of the net. That has been a hot topic of conversation. Dane Smith has stepped up, but Ian McKay last game, he only put in 2 when you're seeing 4, and even 2 is, you know what I mean. But and Scanlon, are you expecting to put in 2 goals from a Scanlon? Buchanan has stepped up in spot starts here. Are you going to get a 3-goal performance by Chase Frazier? I think you need a transition goal, and I think the most likely one to do that is a Nick Weiss. So if Nick Weiss scores in transition, I do think that he will be one of the differences with them winning Game 3. I guess my next question with this is, do you see any adjustments that this defense needs to do versus Saskatchewan to be able to walk out victorious before we move on to what Saskatchewan's defense looks like versus Buffalo's offense?
Yeah, I think what Saskatchewan's doing really well is kind of confusing Buffalo's defense, where they are perfectly okay shooting from the outside, and they're one of the few teams that we've seen do it successfully against Buffalo. They're finding those spots, they're finding the holes, they're shooting through screens, but when Buffalo goes and plays out on hands, they also have the ability to get inside. So it seems like Buffalo's kind of, not that Buffalo's playing horrible by any means, but it seems like they're choosing the wrong time to go to hands and then the wrong time to pack it in on the inside, and they're giving the Rush exactly what they're looking for, and that is a big credit to the Rush offense, to the Rush coaching staff. They have found a way to counteract what Buffalo is really, really good at. To me, I would like to see Buffalo just get very aggressive again, like force them to beat you inside by simply beating you one-on-one. Like, trust your team to be able to play against these guys. Again, I understand that this team is a little bit more of a veteran defense against the young, speedy, athletic Saskatchewan Rush, but they're also allowing players like Mans had a few of them, or Shanks there, Jesus. Shanks, every time he's free, he's scoring. And even though, yes, it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet away from the crease, but that's what he's looking for, and he's still doing it really, really well. So I think, to me, I'd like to see them shift more to how they played against Vancouver, which was extremely aggressive and in their face the whole time. They didn't give Keegan Ball any time to move, any time to operate. Like, he was their number one guy, and they just went after him the whole entire game, and they were able to shut him down. I want to see Buffalo go back to that style. Yes, it's going to leave you a little bit exposed on the inside because you're playing more of a perimeter game, but you just have to trust your defense, trust your team to step back and double down when they need to, and stop kind of letting that go. Like, they're over forcing sometimes the inside stop, and then it's allowing too much time and space on the outside, and that's where the Rush have found their most success in the series so far.
Yeah, Pat Gregoire was on Lacrosse Classified. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to that. He was on our show for an interview a couple weeks ago. But he said pretty much the same thing you said, is this Saskatchewan offense is so different than other teams because they have so many different shooters and so many different scorers that you're not really sure how to play them. And Saskatchewan's done a good job of exposing Buffalo's defense where, hey, what would have we said for the last few years? This defense, as good as they are at blocking shots, if you don't come up with that block, 9 times out of 10, you're screening Matt Vincent. If he's not getting the shot he needs to see, that could be in the back of the net. So that's the one downfall of playing this style of defense, and Saskatchewan has been able to expose it at times in this series. To me, I think you got to get out on hands a lot quicker. You got an example of Steve Perillo. We talked about him multiple times where he was slow getting out. He went to double a few times, preventing that low angle shot. I think it was against Mans. Mans drops it back to, it might have been Keenan, and Keenan's just there to rifle it home. You need to get out on hands. You need to be more aggressive on that situation. And I do agree with you. If you get burned on the inside, you're going to have back help, and Matt Vince is going to be able to make that shot. You can't let these shooters that are really, really good get those open looks. You need to get out on hands. If you're going to get beat, let them get inside and pay that price in that crease. Eventually, they're not going to want to be going in there. I know it's game 3. It means everything. But when you get hit in the head 3, 4, 5 times diving through that crease, you're going to start second-guessing yourself if you really want to dive through that. But the main thing is, Shanks is going to get his. I mean, he had the exact same stat line, 3, 5, and 8 back-to-back games. I think the thing that you need to control is that secondary scoring. Zach Mans went 2, 4, and 6 on 11 shots. Keenan, who was 1 for like 12 or 1 for 14 shooting the first one, he was 2 for 8 and shooting this one. You need to control that Zach Mans and Ryan Keenan, and especially what I already mentioned, Robert Church. You cannot let Robert Church get going. It's pretty much let Shanks get his and control what you can on the outside. If one guy is going to beat you, I think you can live with that. But if you're letting everybody around you get scoring, that's the one kind of thing. Let one guy get hot and control the rest. But I do think getting out on hands is pretty much the most important thing for Buffalo's defense to look for the three-peat. Before we flip it over to Buffalo's offense versus this defense and look at the goaltending battle once again, let's dive into our second sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room, who is hosting a watch party, which you're going to dive into at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps featuring, and we partook in a lot of these, beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
As you all already know, Tap That Tap Room has happy hour on Friday from 3 to 7, where the entire beer wall is discounted. But even more importantly, if you were not able to grab tickets to the officially sold-out Bandits vs. Rush Game 3, Tap That Tap Room is the place to be. We were there for Game 2 with the new sound system. It sounded fantastic and added to an already great atmosphere. They will also be hosting Orso Nero Pizza again, starting at 4 p.m. that day for the 4:30 game, so you can have a delicious meal while watching the game, and you can check out their Facebook page for their other upcoming events post Buffalo Bandit season. No matter what happens, they will still continue having events, and you can go to tapthattaproom.com to find out what's on tap and what's on deck.
Because they have something
for everyone.
Perfect. It's been a while since we did that. Defense And transition for Saskatchewan versus Buffalo's offense. It's very unlikely we're going to see Kluch back in the lineup, so we're going to get another dose of Clay Scanlon, who I think added that extra flavor to that offense, especially in the first half. I think Saskatchewan was able to adjust to him in the second half and were able to shut them down. But Matt Hossack, Mike Messenger, Ryan Barnable, Jake Boudreau, you already know all these names because you faced them 3 times. It's kind of like Toronto in past years. You've already know what these players are capable of. Who is that X factor for Buffalo's offense? And you already mentioned Buchanan last week. You can go double dose if you want. But who is that X factor for them to win Game 3 again, to be that 3P champion?
I think Byrne is the obvious choice just because of his goal scoring being a little bit down. But to me, he's still doing a lot for the team. He's still finding McKay open. He still has the assists. So I'm not choosing him because he's also a little bit too obvious. But I am going to choose the player who struggled quite a bit last game and has been scoreless so far in this series, and that is Tehoka Nanticoke. He has the ability to score. We've seen it plenty of times. He gets the dirty goals. He gets the great goals. He shoots from outside. He has that ability in him. We all know it. We just need to see it. And I'm not expecting him to go out there and get 3, 4, 5 goals. But if he gets even 1, even 2, like that is all you need from that kind of player in this situation for that depth scoring. And exactly what you just said a little bit earlier. Can you trust Scanlon to get 2 again? So if he doesn't, you need somebody else like a Nanticoke to step up. Everybody else, to me, on the offensive side, has been doing pretty well. Like Buchanan had his hat trick in the first game. Yes, he only had 1 in Game 2. Almost had 2, but he was just on the crease. But outside of that, like Dane has stepped up in an incredible way, and I feel like it's being maybe a little bit overshadowed by Byrne's struggles. That Dane has come out like a madman. Even how great Shanks has been playing, I think, is also overlooking a little bit of what Dane Smith's been able to do, and more importantly, his goal scoring has been there for this series, and that's something that he hasn't really obviously focused on. He even talked about it in his post-game interview that everybody kind of thinks he can't shoot anymore, but when he needs to and the shot's there, he's taking in. Right now, he is finding that, and he seems to be currently their biggest X factor. But to me, it has to be a player like Nanticoke. I think Fraser's getting his. I think Buchanan's getting his. Scanlon even got his. So, like, everybody's doing what they need to do. And to me, it's Nanticoke who just hasn't scored at all in this series. That just needs that, again, that 1 or 2 goals, just that little bit extra to push this offense over the top.
Yeah, I like that you summed up, okay, if Scanlon doesn't, if you can't count on him to get 2, you need to replace that scoring production. But even if you look at the stat sheet, I mean, McKay had 2, you had Scanlon with 2, you had Smith with 2, Fraser with 2, and then Bucky and Byrne with 1 each. That totals 10. To me, that's not going to be enough. I think you need to get that 11, 12 mark. I know I said it earlier, it's probably a race to 10 or 11. But if you get to 12, I think you win this one. I really think if you get to 12, you end up winning. But even if you do have Scanlon who struggles in this one, doesn't put up those 2, but Nanticoke gets it, you still need to find 2 more goals somewhere. And that to me is why, and again, I'm not bashing him whatsoever because I know he's not 100% healthy. There's no way because he's not getting inside. Even Pat Gregoire on the show mentioned it. He's not getting inside. You're not seeing that air burn that we've saw before the playoffs even started because I think that ankle injury that he picked up in San Diego is definitely hindering him. If Byrne doesn't put up 2 or 3 goals in this one, I don't think Buffalo wins. Unless somebody else pops off, unless Chase Fraser goes for 4 and everybody else is providing what he is.
Or McKay gets back up to his 4 or 5.
Right. And this is not me criticizing Josh Byrne whatsoever. He's leading the playoffs in assists. I mean, he's got 17 assists, 3 goals, 20 points. He's still up there. He's doing what he needs to do. And if Josh Byrne isn't in this lineup, I don't think you're getting the Ian McKay that we've been seeing so far. So don't hear what I'm not saying. But what I am saying is, if Josh Byrne doesn't put in 2 or 3 goals in this one, I don't think Buffalo wins this unless somebody steps up for 4 or 5 goals. And that's just, to me, how important Josh Byrne is to this offense and how important his goal scoring is. And you look at the past games, Josh Byrne hasn't really been scoring this playoffs. Why? I think it has to do with the ankle. Even if he's feeling good and going into the game, you're still second guessing every time, okay, is this shot worth it for the pain that's going to be shooting through my leg? Game 3, I think he's going to throw all caution to the wind. I think you might see some air burn in this one, even if it's not vintage air burn. If Byrne puts in 2 or 3 goals with the depth scoring that we've seen these last 2 games, I think Buffalo walks out victorious.
Yeah, Gregoire said a few things that were great. One of them you just mentioned that just his shooting for sure is down. Normally he's up to 12, 13, 14, 15 shots a game. And in this series, he's only been at 8 and 10. So he's definitely not shooting as much as we are used to seeing him shoot. And even like we saw a lot in that last game where he is hesitating to shoot even when he's in a good position. It seems like maybe that injury is just in the back of his mind and he's taking that extra second to pass that last second play because he doesn't really trust his ability to shoot right now, even when he's in those prime positions. You and I were yelling at the TV quite a bit where Josh is just wide open in the middle of the field, and instead of taking that great shot, which he normally would take and bury, he's looking for that one extra pass and that one extra play. Maybe he just doesn't have the confidence in his own injury to really make that shot, and his shooting is down as far as shots on net go in general. So
and percentage, yeah.
And percentage. So, and a lot of it, like you said, I do think a lot of it is the injury. The talent obviously is still there. He's fine. He's got 17 assists. He's doing everything he needs to, knowing that he can't shoot as well as he would like to. But maybe this extra week off is what he needs. Yes, it's going to be a little bit tough to recover that quick from back-to-back weekend, but a week off is still a week off. We've heard so much about how great Buffalo is with their conditioning and their recovery post-game and what the team offers these players. So maybe, like you just said, maybe for the game 3, there is no other lacrosse. You know, like there's nothing else to worry about. Yes, he has summer ball, but right now, this is all that matters. He's probably just going to put it all on the line. Pain or no pain, Josh Byrne is a real player, and he's going to go out there and do his best.
Yeah, again, don't hear what we're not saying. We're not criticizing his play. I actually love his play, the adjustments that he has made.
Exactly.
Because, again, I don't think Ian McKay is putting up these numbers. I don't think you're seeing Clay Scanlon put in 2 goals in that game. We've seen him make the adjustments knowing that, okay, I'm not fully healthy. I can't do peak Josh Byrne things, so I'm going to set more Blaine picks. I'm going to get in and scuffle things more. I'm going to dish out more assists. So you're seeing the assist numbers go up while the goals come down, but you're also seeing Ian McKay pumping those goals that we did not see in the regular season. Yes, he put up over 30 goals, but, I mean, he's on an unbelievable pace right now. It's unbelievable. And I hate that people are comparing his previous playoff numbers to this year's because there's no comparison. Last time he was playing transition, this year he's playing full-time out the O-gate. So as cool as those numbers are that he's going to beat all the previous playoff numbers combined in his career, yes, but there's a reason for it.
It's like trying to compare Dane's first 2 seasons when he was defense to, you know, what he's doing now. Like, oh, look at the difference. Well,
you're comparing the scoring numbers. Why don't you compare the loose balls, cause turnovers, and block shots to what he's doing now? Then technically he would be having a terrible playoffs, but you got to take that into consideration here. Last matchups here. Frank Scigliano versus Matt Vince in net. Game 1, Matt Vince got the edge over Scigliano. Game 2, Scigliano got the edge over Matt Vince, even though I think they both have been playing absolutely lights out, doing what they both need to do. Both of them should be sitting 2-0, walking out already as champions, but because they're going against each other, it's a little different. Buffalo needs to score this many to win, and Buffalo needs to hold Saskatchewan to this number to win. What are those 2 numbers?
I do agree with you. I think 11-12 is still the magic number and has been this whole series. I mean, Buffalo's offense has only gotten to 12, 11, 10, 9, and 5 in the playoffs, so not once have they gone off for 13, 14, 15. I mean, they averaged 13 the entire regular season and haven't touched that once. That's not a shot against the offense. That's how playoff lacrosse is. It's a little bit more low scoring for the most part. So this offense, while great, I think is only going to really be able to find room and space and time to get close to 11 or 12 again. I don't see them getting 13, 14, 15 against this rush defense or Scigliano. And for Vince, I think, again, hold them under 10, and I think you have the win. To me, and while we're talking about the goalies, one, you got to get inside on Frank Scigliano. Over half their goals, I believe, so far are coming on the inside. He seems to struggle quite a bit when Buffalo is all up in his face, whether they're shooting high, shooting low, diving. I mean, that's how Scanlon got his 2 goals. That's how Fraser scored a bunch. McKay's gotten in there to score a bunch. Smith's gotten in there to score a bunch. You have to get on top of him. He does not allow those outside goals very often. Yes, he's let in, I think both of Burns' goals were from the outside, but outside of those 2 goals, for the most part, he's been able to hold them pretty well. The mid-range, he's been giving some up, but inside is definitely the key to Scigliano. And to me, this whole series comes down to defense and Vince. If they can go back to what they were doing in the first 2 rounds and all 3 games of the first 2 rounds, if they can get back to that domination on defense and Vince can step up his game one more time, I think that is the key to victory. And I think that's where your offense can get 10, 11, 12 and be perfectly fine. But to me, it's not what the offense can do. It's what Vince and the defense can do against this rush defense where, let me pull it up again. In the playoffs, they have 60 goals for compared to Buffalo's 47. Obviously, we know Buffalo's offense has had some lower scoring games, but I think it just shows how hot that rush offense really is right now. And even though Buffalo's won some and kept it really close, I think what they've been able to do has been impressive to keep the rush offense to what they've been able to limit them to. But the defense and Vince need to step up their game one more time and get them closer to that 7, 8, 9 mark. And I think they can do it if they clean up a lot of those just hideous mistakes that they made in the last game.
Yeah, you said two things that I was going to bring up that I absolutely love. The first one, I do agree. You score 12 goals, I think you win. You keep them 10 and under, you win. I definitely agree that if Buffalo defense and Matt Vince plays how they did in rounds 1 and 2, it really doesn't matter what the offense does. I think they walk out victorious. I also agree, and that was one of the other things that I was going to ask, okay, what does the offense have to do to kind of go out of their way and win this one? It's getting inside on Frank Scigliano. Too many times in game 2, they were settling for outside shots. Too many times they were shooting from the outside early in the shot clock. The first goal that Saskatchewan scored in transition on Jake Boudreau was Dane Smith shooting early in the shot clock. It goes off the backboard, and nobody's back in time. I know Cam Wires kind of got in position, but it's still 3-on-2 going the other way. Smart shot selection is better than just mass amount of shots, to me, in my opinion. But I do agree. If you get in onside on Frank Scigliano, start hot. Like, when was the last time Buffalo's offense started hot?
Yeah.
Go out there,
or
pump
the
in
team.
3. Yeah. Go out there, pump in 3-4 goals in the first quarter. You're going to get the sellout of Banditland right behind you, and it's going to be tough for Saskatchewan, who, yes, has scored 60 goals this playoffs. But how many of those came in that one game versus they had 16 in game 1 versus Saskatchewan? Why am I blanking? Halifax. Sorry. They scored 13 in game 1 versus Georgia. So a lot of that is front-loaded. Buffalo's defense has kind of been able to control them, but yeah, I do agree. If you need to be able to, and remember, they lost by one goal in game 2 when their offense and defense were not playing very strong, and Matt Vince wasn't having peak Matt Vince games. So if you're able to clean that up a bit, I do think the last thing, and then we can kind of get into our predictions. I think the lefties are good right now with the pick and rolls and connecting on good passes. It seemed like in game 2, it was more the righties that were struggling with it. Nanakoke wasn't coming up with them. Kyle Buchanan and Dane Smith were just a hair off. If they're able to just give that half a second quicker or half a second more on time, those pick and rolls were open. They were just missing some pick and rolls because they were a half a second off on the offense on the right-hand side. If they're able to clean that up and get back dialed in, I do think it's, again, we said it on the Tuesday show this week. If Buffalo's playing at their absolute best and Saskatchewan's playing at their absolute best, I still think Buffalo is a hair better than Saskatchewan. It's just neither one of them at the same time has been playing peak vintage rush top level lacrosse and Bandits top level lacrosse. So I do think with Banditland behind them, I do think that this still favors Buffalo a little bit. But coming out of Saturday at like 7 p.m. at night, I wouldn't be shocked if Saskatchewan's raising that trophy. Don't hear what we're not saying. This is a Bandits-centered podcast. That's why we're talking mostly Bandits. This isn't going to be an easy game. We already saw Saskatchewan barely lose in game 1. We see them win in game 2. It's happened before where you get to a game 3 and Buffalo has all that confidence behind them and Colorado comes, kicks them in the mouth, and walks out victorious. It can happen. But if Buffalo's playing at peak Buffalo level, I don't think Saskatchewan has the horses to top them right now. So I guess that'll dive into it. Phil, game 3, last final prediction of this season. What is your score prediction for game 3 in front of a sellout crowd, 19,070 in Banditland, Phil? What is your prediction? Is Buffalo walking out as a 3-peat champion, or are you breaking the hearts of all of Buffalo and having Saskatchewan raise that trophy in front of them?
I won't get into it because we're getting into it a little bit later. But I have them winning, and I think I already picked this score once before. I think I'm just going to go back to my 11-9. I was going to say 11-8, but that seems a little low for the Rush. I think their offense is still really good, but I do think defense and Vince can turn it up 100% in this game and just go all out. I mean, last game, the other thing is, yes, Buffalo was very close to winning, and yes, they wanted to win, but Now it's desperation. Now this is it. This is, if you want it, this is yours to go get it. And now there is no safety blanket of, hey, we still have game 3 at home. Don't worry about it. And even you mentioned at the very end of that game, it seemed like they just kind of were like, we'll let it go. Like, it's over. They can have it. We got game 3 at home. This is it. Like, there is no more game 3. So we'll see how Buffalo is in a desperation game, because we've talked about it so many times this season that Buffalo has not had to like the entire second half of their year. All these other teams were trying to fight for their playoff lives while Buffalo was just kind of coasting to the first overall seed. And then outside of San Diego, in Vancouver, you handily won game 1. So game 2, again, didn't really mean that much, and they were still able to win. So what does Buffalo look like when their backs are finally against the wall again and they are the desperate team to win the championship? I think they will lock it down, especially on defense with Vince and the D. 11-9 is what I'm going with.
So we've predicted scores for 4 years now. This will be the conclusion of 4 years. You have picked the score 11-9.
I love it.
4 other times.
Oh, I don't love it. What's my favorite score?
They're 3-1 in those equations.
Wow. All right.
I am picking them. If you looked at our predictions last week, I'm having them win, and I'm sticking with it. 13-9. I have had that score 3 other times. They're 3-0, and the last time I did it, round 3, game 3 versus Colorado, where they won 13-4. So this is pretty good news. They're 6-1 when we pick these scores. So history's on our side, except for that one time, maybe.
I'll take it. The other thing you did mention, which I do want to quickly bring up, very quickly, but in the first 5 minutes of this series, Buffalo is down 4-0. So like you said, start quick for once. Like twice now, the Rush have gotten up to extremely quick leads in the game, and Buffalo has had to battle back that entire time. And they were outscored 3-1 the first time in the first, and 3-2 the other time in the first. So you're down 6-3 in the first quarter. Come out hot in the first quarter, please. Come out on fire, and the rest of the game's a little bit easier when you're not fighting back the entire time.
So we're going to make one more prediction here. We haven't done this in the 4 years. I don't know why. But we already know if Saskatchewan wins, we're not going to really talk about it because, again, Bandits-centered show. It's going to be Shanks that wins the MVP. I mean, I don't think there's any question. Unless Frank Scigliano allows Buffalo to score 3 goals, I don't see another player that is going to win the MVP for Saskatchewan like Austin Shanks. I think you agree with it. Not in your head, so you agree with it if you're watching YouTube. Buffalo's a little bit more difficult here. Who would be your finals? And again, there's one more game, and that can shake up a lot of things. But based on, let's assume Buffalo wins this one, because I don't think it's ever happened where the finals MVP goes to the losing team. It wouldn't really make sense. Why would he be an MVP of a losing team? Connor Fields. But, sorry, I had to. I do think he should have been the MVP this season. But sorry, Zach Currier should have been the MVP, but he wasn't up for the award.
That's better.
Who would be your finals MVP for Buffalo, assuming Buffalo wins Game 3?
Right now, it's an extremely difficult question. I feel like with how Ian McKay played last game, this is not a shot at him, but he took a little dip in his ridiculous stats, and I think to me, Smith kind of took over the entire series so far with his ability, his play, and his very crucial goals. I don't think we've seen peak Matt Vince. I don't think the defense in front of him has been all that helpful at times either. So he's still coming up with monster saves, still playing amazing. I'm not trying to take any shots at him by any means. He's half the reason they're even this close in most of these games. But to me right now, Dane Smith is playing on another level. You asked him in your preview of the first 2 games to step up, him and Byrne. I think he heard you. He looks like he's just taking over games the best he can as a captain, assistant captain of the team, and just one of the best players in the world. You can see there just seems to be a difference with him in the finals so far, that he's just putting this team on his back and doing everything he possibly can to get the victory. So right now, I'd have to lean Dane Smith.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. I didn't think you would come up with that name. I thought we were still going to be both on Ian McKay and Matt Vince, and I was going to throw a shocker at you. I do agree. Unless you get a 4-2-6 performance out of Ian McKay in this game, I do think, pending a 2-1-3 stat line for Dane Smith in the Game 3 here, I do think that Dane Smith is the leader in the clubhouse right now. But I do think that there is the ability for Ian McKay to jump ahead of it, not just because of, the numbers that he's putting up in the playoffs, but I think a little bit in the back of voters' heads, it's going to be, okay, Dane Smith's already had one. How many more times are we going to be able to give it to like a guy like Ian McKay, who's a true transition player? I do think that in the back of, fair or not, I do think that's going to be in the back of some voters' heads of, okay, let's give it to Ian McKay. He just finished this finals, and I do think if he goes 4-2-6 and Buffalo wins it, and he's the only one on the team with over, 2 goals? If he's 4-2 and everybody else has got 2 goals, I think that also is more recency bias for voting is there as well. So if Ian McKay goes 4-2-6, I think the award goes to Ian McKay. Otherwise, I do think it's likely to go to Dane Smith. Again, unless Mad Vince goes out there and puts on...
Vince can do the same thing he did last final and also squeak his name back into conversation.
Yeah, so I think those 3 are... The only ones that I can see winning it is just what do they do in Game 3. Dane Smith just has to do what he's been doing. Ian McKay has to step back up his game, what we saw in Game 1 and what we saw in that Vancouver series. And then Matt Vince has to pretty much pitch a lights-out performance allowing, less than 5 goals, which he can. I mean, we've already seen it in this playoffs. He's done it twice. So I think it's Dane Smith unless Ian McKay or Matt Vince steps up, which going into this finals, I wouldn't have said because, and as much as we said Dane Smith and Josh Byrne have to step up in this one because they just haven't performed at the level that we have seen in the past because they haven't needed to, Dane Smith has been lights out and has been, to me, the MVP of this team in this finals. But before we dive into the milestones and then our important questions to wrap this one up, let's dive into our third and final sponsor of the show, Totally Buffalo Store.
The Totally Buffalo Store's mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans that you can see locally and soon. They are your place to go when you need a gift for a friend or just want to shop around for something for yourself. They offer 3 locations, 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 Center Street in Lewiston.
They have a massive event going down this weekend, Memorial Day. It's extra long because it is Memorial Day. Down at River Works. Go check them out. Again, free admission. If you don't really know much about them, either check their Facebook page or go listen to our ad read from Tuesdays. Phil spit all the knowledge out there. There's going to be a ton of local artisans there. There's going to be events throughout the entire day. Rides are open. The event is on, rain or shine, and it's indoors, so you're not really going to get wet unless you're walking to and from your car. Free admission. Get down there, support local vendors, and that's exactly what this weekend is all about. But this is Bandits time. This is Game 3. Get down to the Totally Buffalo Store, all 3 of those locations. Stock up. There's going to be 19,070 of you in Banditland. You all need orange and black. The best place to go to get this stuff is the Totally Buffalo Store. They have everything that you could possibly need, from earrings, from pants, shirts, hoodies, whatever you possibly could need to support the Buffalo Bandits in their goal to win Game 3 for their three-peat. Get down to the Totally Buffalo Store right now. I mean, as you're listening to, you can put us on in the car and drive down there and just go, oh, I'm passing one of the Totally Buffalo stores right now. Get down there, go support them, and support the Buffalo Bandits' goal to win the three-peat, because if they get it, man, there's going to be so much more merch all over town, but especially Totally Buffalo Store. They're going to restock. They're going to have three-peat all over their chests, three-peat all over the pants, socks, underwear, hats, whatever it is. There's going to be so much of it down at the Totally Buffalo Store. So head down to the Totally Buffalo Store now to get all this stuff and support them this weekend. After Buffalo wins, what are you going to do on Sunday? Go to Riverworks, support the local artisans. We always say that you can't find this stuff at the big box stores. Go down there, shop local, support small businesses. That's exactly what Totally Buffalo Store does. Check out their Facebook and Instagram page, and to find out all the other stuff, go to totallybuffalostore.com. Phil, a few milestones here. We had a ton checked off, and as I was expecting, that just opened the door for even more. So, fastest milestone minute, the final one of this in season. I'm going to try to get it down to 1 minute, Phil. It hasn't happened this whole playoffs, and usually playoffs mean a lot of awards because there's more games and smashing records all over the place. All these possible milestones can be found on X and Blue Sky Buffalo Sports Co. We post them leading up to each and every game. I've been remembering to post them on Blue Sky nonstop, even though that site seems like it's slowly dying. So if you missed one and you don't want to listen back, check for them there. What's that? Wet the whistle a little bit. What's the old saying? Like, to perform singing, what do you got to say? Like, I can't remember the... Whatever. If Steve Priolo plays on Saturday, he will tie Dane Dobie and John Tavares for second place in NLL playoff history. He would also tie JT for first in Bandits playoff history. Dane Smith plays on Saturday. He would tie Tyler Carlson for fifth. Nick Weiss plays on Saturday. He tied Mike Poulin and Chris Corbeil for 10th. Josh Byrne is 7 points away from tying Curtis Dixon for 6th place in NLL playoff history. He's 10 away from tying Colin Doyle for 5th. Nick Weiss is 7 loose balls away from tying Chris Corbeil for 9th place in NLL playoff history. He's also 2 penalty minutes away from tying Pat McCready, Sean Evans, David Brock, and Jake Withers for 8th place in NLL playoff history. He's also 1 cause turnover away from tying Dan McCrae for 10th. He's 2 away from tying Mitch DeSnu for 9th, and 3 away from tying Jeff Cornwall for 8th. Paul Dustin is 5 loose balls away from 100 for an NLL career. Matt Vince is 1 win away from 40 for his NLL career. If Josh Byrne plays on Saturday, with tie Billy D. Smith and Rich Kilgore for 10th place in Bandits playoff history. Nanticoke is 1 goal away from tying Mike Kersey for 7th place in Bandits history. Ian McKay is 2 goals away from tying Mike Kersey for 7th in Bandits playoff history. If he plays on Saturday, Chris Cloutier is 1 assist away from tying Mark Steinhaus for 4th place in Bandits playoff history. Toka Nanticoke is 1 assist away from tying Darius Kilgore for 9th place in Bandits playoff history. Chase Frazier is 2 points away from passing Darius Kilgore for 10th place in Bandits history. And Josh Byrne and Kyle Buchanan are both 3 loose balls away from tying Jay Thornburg for 9th place in Battlefield Bandits history.
About 1:15.
Oh, so close. If I didn't stutter in the first place. Oh, a lot of possible milestones. Check them all off so I don't have to do this next season.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ones. I mean, Vince would be, I think, the coolest one with 40. 40 is pretty exciting. Big, nice round number. Dawson for his 100th of the loose balls would be pretty cool. And was it Priolo who can tie for 2nd ever and 1st for Bandits playoff history? Pretty crazy. So that'd be a good one as well.
Here's what's insane. Matt Vince is going for win number 40.
Yeah.
The next closest is Bob Watson, who's been retired for a while. He's at 16. Dallas Elliott, 13. Aaron Bowl, 13. Mike Poulin, who just retired, is 12. The closest active NLL goaltender is Dylan Ward with 11. I don't think anybody's touching 40 wins ever. Is this going to be... Matt Vince's records could stand the test of time. Like, I really don't think, whether it's playoffs or regular season, I just don't see a goaltender. I think Christian Del Bianco is the closest one that he could possibly break it, but he just missed the entire season, and then he also missed one in COVID. So I think COVID definitely hurts some of these players that are active now. If there's a goaltender that's going to beat his numbers, maybe it's Chris Origlieri. Maybe it's, if he gets hot and good. Who's the Vancouver one that Christian Del Bianco passed? Aiden Walsh. I mean, he's got a young, promising career. Nick Demuth, if he stays in Philly and keep getting peppered with these shots, he could be up there with saves. But yeah, I really think that
career if he keeps getting peppered.
Yeah, I really think that Matt Vince's numbers here could be just beyond, and he could even. This is the next topic of conversation. He could play another year and just keep adding to those. But these numbers are just stupid. Like, if you ever just sit down and look at these, it's like he's the only goaltender right now with over 1,000 NLL playoff saves, and he's got 1,000 with one team. Like, it's stupid. The next closest is Dylan Ward. He's 80 away from 1,000. It's just insane what's going on with Matt Vince. If, like, I don't want to keep going on a rant here, but if you want to see greatness, just go on to NLL.com and see the milestone and the record numbers. Matt Vince is at the top of every single one of them, and the second place isn't close whatsoever. It's ridiculous how good he is, and appreciate what you have, Buffalo, because it's stupid good. Thank you for coming to Buffalo, Matt Vince. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be an off-season fun conversation, but like they've been mentioning all season, is Tavares the GOAT, or is Matt Vince the GOAT? Like, does position necessarily, like, is because just because he's a goalie, does that not disqualify him from being the GOAT, or can he be the greatest lacrosse player of all time? And I love the fact that he's even being compared to a Michael Jordan and other sports, because he is at that level for this sport. Yes, it's a smaller professional sport. Yes, there's only, 14 teams right now? But at the same time, he's still doing this incredible thing at a professional level for this longevity, and everything he's doing is, like you said, most of it's going to be untouchable and stand the test of time. So I do think he deserves to be up there as one of just the greatest athletes of all time, who is criminally underappreciated, because lacrosse in the NLL is underappreciated.
I'm glad the way you phrased that. One of the greatest athletes of all time, not just lacrosse players, because I do believe he is one of the greatest lacrosse players that's ever played and will ever play. But I do also believe that he should be in some of the conversations of the Wayne Gretzky's, of the Michael Jordans, of the Babe Ruths, and so on and so forth, just because he is such a great athlete in this sport. Just because it's a smaller sport doesn't take away from the greatness and the records that he's putting up. But we already went over the whole game. We're going to flash forward just a little bit here. We're going to foreshadow just a little bit, kind of get you tuned into what this offseason for us could be looking like. And again, this is the only time we can really talk about it because it's before Game 3. After Game 3, we already know, okay, after they win, what happens? After they lose, what happens? Now it's, hypothetically, we can play both sides of this aisle here. We'll start with if they lose. If Buffalo goes into this game and we, for the second time out of 4 straight years, see a different team hoisting the cup on that field, what happens to this team this offseason? Regardless of the CBA, regardless of anything else, what happens with the makeup of this team that's been together for so long if they do fail to get that three-peat?
Yeah, I really can't handle them losing at all, emotionally, for this podcast, physically, everything. Mainly because if they lose, it's not the loss by any means. They've lost plenty of championships. We were there when they lost to Colorado at home. It hurts.
We didn't leave.
So we didn't
were
didn't
asked to leave.
We watched. We got kicked out actually of that game.
Actually, the last 3 we've gotten kicked out of.
Keep getting told to go home. Just let us enjoy or hate the moment for a minute. But it's. I do think if they lose, Matt Vince hangs it up. I think Dawson hangs it up, and I think Buchanan hangs it up. And I can't handle the Buffalo Bandits without those 3. I mean, Dawson's only been here for a couple seasons. I think what he's done for this team and what he continues to do is extremely important. But more than anything, Buchanan, and obviously even more than anything, I cannot handle the post-Matt Vince era in Buffalo. Will they still be good? Absolutely. They still have a core. They're still a great team. But Matt Vince is, as we just discussed, a 1 in a bajillion / nothing. There is only one Matt Vince. And once he moves on, and we've talked about how often have we talked about how important the goaltender
we've been doing
position
the show
is.
for 4 years, so 4 years.
Yeah. Goalie is, to us, the most important position on that field. And if you take away the greatest goalie of all time from a team, they're going to take a step back no matter who you put out there. So that I cannot handle. So they cannot lose because I do not want to enter the post-Matt Vince era.
Okay. I do agree with you. If they lose, it's a little different, and I've said it multiple times since these 4 years of covering this team. It's a little bit different for me sitting behind this microphone covering this team because I've been able to take off my biased Bandits hat and look at it as a grand scheme things a lot more often than I am a true fan. The only time where I'm like a true fan is when I'm watching the game live, whether it's in person or on TV. All the other times, I'm trying to take off that biased hat and be behind this microphone and look at it as an overview. So while I'm in that seat, I'm going to be rooting for them, standing up every time they score, booing the refs, all that kind of fun stuff that you do in the crowd. But once the game's over, as a content creator, there could be a lot more content if they lose. Again, not rooting for it whatsoever, but there's a lot more topics of conversation if they do lose. There's a lot more content that we can provide to the listeners out there if they lose. I mean, we've seen them lose before. They'll probably lose again in the future, whether it is Saturday or down in the future. It's impossible to win every single game that you're involved in, especially in Game 3s. I do agree, and that was kind of the thing that we were hinting at in this conversation. What happens to the older players? I know Steve Priolo's name's been mentioned multiple times online. He just signed a 3-year deal. That doesn't stop him from retiring, but that limits the chances. Why would you sign a 3-year contract if you're just going to turn around and retire 1 year into it? I don't think there's any chance, but I think the 3 big names that you already mentioned, Matt Vince, Kyle Buchanan, and Paul Dawson, if they do lose, I mean, what is there to draw them back besides the competitive nature in them to walk away after a loss? Like it would be very difficult for them to say, okay, the last game I ever put on a sweater for the NLL, I lost in a Game 3. I think that would be the only thing really keeping them around. I could see Kyle Buchanan leaving Buffalo and going to play one more season in Ottawa where he's from. but I could also see him hanging up. All three of these guys have younger kids. I think that also plays a big factor in it. They've all said it, that they love having their kids come to the game and watching them play. But I do think that if they lose and they don't get that three-peat, it's not like, which we're going to need to do in a second, it's not like, okay, we can go do something that's unprecedented going for the number 4. It starts over. And are these guys willing to play 4 more straight years, hoping that they get 4 straight? You know what I mean? So I do think that if they lose, it's the topic of conversation for those 3 players. But I also believe it's, okay, you just lost this championship. What happens with some of these guys like the Chris Kluches, who could be making more money elsewhere? And I know you're not going to make a ton in this league whatsoever, but he could be one of the aces on a different team. Does Chase Frazier want to go back to the West Coast where he grew up and is where he's from? What happens to a guy like Tehoka Nanako, who's kind of underrated on this team? Does he want to go elsewhere to play for a different one and be a number 1? What happens to the back end here where you got a Cam Wires, you have a Dylan Robinson who saw both of his brothers leave? So I think a lot of questions get proposed and get brought up if they do lose. Got that out of our system. That's done. That's buried. That'll be a topic of conversation if they do lose on Saturday. Positive note, we're going to end on here. If the Buffalo Bandits Saturday win, Phil, and we're in our seats until they tell us to leave, they raise a 3rd straight championship, 7 that's never been done. They're leading the pack in the NLL, the only team that wins, or the only franchise that has 7 titles. What happens if they win?
I think everybody comes back. Like you said, it's to come back to do something that's never been done in history and is extremely difficult to do ever. A three-peat alone is extremely difficult to do. Don't ask Matt Vince, ask somebody else other than him. For most other players, it is extremely difficult to do, but a 4-peat has never been done, and that would be even tougher, obviously. So if they are able to accomplish that, and I think the big thing about this season, for those players especially, for the Dawsons, the Vinces, and the Buchanans, none of them have lost a step. Like, that to me is a huge thing, even to tell themselves. Like, Buchanan can go out there and he just scored a career high in goals for the entire season. Like, to be able to do that has to instill some kind of self-confidence that you're not coming back just to be a veteran on this team, just to come back because you have that veteran presence and they're not going to kick you off until you leave. Like, you can come back and still be an extremely productive member of this team. And we look at the last game for Kyle Buchanan where he won that loose ball when nobody's on the field and happens to win a loose ball in a one-on-one battle, passes it to Fraser, and he buries a few people, burns a few people, and scores that goal. Like, no one else is doing that except Kyle Buchanan. Like, when that happened, you and I turned to each other like, what's this team going to be without a player like that? Like, he's so incredible with the little things, and then the goal scoring he added this year to just raise his game. Dawson crushing the block shots record and still that veteran presence. And then Vince continues to put up incredible numbers the entire time. The whole season he had great numbers, and then the playoffs he just continues to raise his ability. So I think the big thing to me with those 3 is that none of them have lost a step, and if anything, they somehow are continuing to get better as they get older. So I think to them, they've proven to themselves this year they still have it, they can still bring it, they can still add something to this team, and if they win, you're going out there trying to do something that's never been done in the history, and then after that, that's a different story.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head perfectly. There's not much more I can say. Sure that there's going to be some change on this team. There always is. It'll be 1 or 2 players rather than if they were to lose, it would be 5, 6, 7, 8 players that might change.
I think the league is catching up, so there is going to be something that the team needs to look at and be like, how do we stay at the level we're at?
Like they've done the past 3 years for this. But I fully agree with legit everything you said. You stole every pinpoint bulletin board material that I said. You hit it perfectly. I mean, there's not a better way to sum it up. If they do win, I do think those 3 do come back to Buffalo as long as Buffalo wants them, and why wouldn't you? You hit the nail on the head with everything. Kyle Buchanan just had a career high in goals. He can clearly still do it. Yes, are the loose ball numbers down? Yeah, but that's because you had a Clay Scanlon out there that was doing it on the other side. Yes, you had a Chris Kluche who did it on the other side. So while those numbers came down, his goal scoring picked up. So you can definitely tell he's still out there on nearly every single face-off attempt. So
yeah, 1v3 on the face-off attempts.
yeah, it's ridiculous. You also have Paul Dawson, who might have lost a bit of a step on defense. You're kind of seeing it a bit, but he's still that smart player that's always in the right position, especially on the penalty kill. And if Matt Vince is back, you know Paul Dawson's going to be coming back. Matt Vince was just up for goaltender of the year once again. He just shut down Vancouver in the playoffs for 3 goals. San Diego scored 4, technically 3 on him as well. So Matt Vince can still do it. It's okay, if they win, do they still want to do it and go do something that no other team has been able to do in the following year, which is win 4 straight? Like, where do you want to carry your legacy and make Buffalo a staple and a topic of conversation every single time this sport is brought up? Because, yeah, Buffalo's talked about with the likes of Philly, with the likes of Toronto, with the likes of Vancouver, and so on and so forth. But if you four-peat, you know, like, the first topic of conversation in the NLL is going to be, okay, you know Buffalo Bills that lost 4 straight Super Bowls? Buffalo Bandits, who play in the same city, just won 4 straight NLL top. That's going to be the topic of conversation every time you bring up this league and this sport. It's something that nobody else could do, and it's something that nobody else may ever do. So, I mean, only one other team has won 3 straight. What would it be like to win 4 straight? I would like to be on the topic of conversation and to going into year 5 of covering this team, trying to figure that out. So, Phil, that wraps up. If they win or if they lose, that wraps up our preview, our final preview of the show. This pretty much wraps up our future outlook of this season for the Buffalo Bandits in the future without knowing, okay, who's raising the cup. So is there anything you would else like to add to the show, which we already went up and over an hour, which I wasn't expecting, to add to this episode before we shut it down, get through Friday workday, and then head down to the bank at 4:30 for an absolute sellout raucous crowd for the 4th straight season where the NLL season wraps up in Banditland?
I know you want the content, but I'll say it again. Please win, simply because I do not want a post-Matt Vince era yet. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. One more win, and hopefully, I mean, we still have to talk about it all summer because he won't sign anything until like December, probably after week 1, then he'll sign a deal. But
God, man, many minutes back.
But outside of that, please win so I don't have to imagine this team without Vince yet.
Very well said. So on our next show, which will be actually air on Monday for the first time in a while, actually first time in 2 weeks, we just did it on a Monday 2 weeks ago, but we will break down this game, good or bad. We'll be recording this, we'll put it out, and then the following Friday we'll be going over our predictions before we transition into our off-season mode where we're 1 show a week every single Wednesday. But before we even get into that, Bandits versus Rush, Game 3 in Banditland, sellout 4:30. Party in the Plaza starts at 2:30.
Wave those towels.
Absolutely insane. They're putting towels on everybody's chairs. It's already done. I still think we tweeted it out beforehand. They still need to get all those chairs orange for the new chairs. So just going to say that. But this wraps up this episode. Enjoy Game 3. Enjoy the greatness because it's absolutely not common that this happens. Again, only one team has ever three-peated. Could Buffalo be the second? So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil, that guy probably there or there. His article is there. Go give that a read. Check out our store on our link trees on our social media sites or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.